Produced by Malik.
What's going on, world? Welcome back to Aqua Malik. Happy Vlogmas, everyone. I'm doing a video every single day for you guys in a vlog style. So today's video is going to be about flow. How much flow does your tank need? If you haven't checked out yesterday's video, I put a video about this exact tank where the filters had clogged up and there was no flow going into the tank. There's a lot of responses and I went through the whole list and I responded to everybody, and I just wanted to quickly say there's no exact number to say this is how much flow a tank should have. In a river there's a lot of current and water is constantly flowing through. Plecos live in a river environment, so it's best to have a decent amount of flow in your Pleco tank. I did not tell you guys yesterday on the video not to have flow. What I was just saying is that the animals still do good even in a condition where it's just sponge filters. In this tank, when these two clogged up and the sponge filter was not working, or the matin filter was not working properly because the water level was below it, these plants was taking out all the carbon dioxide and the oxygen saturation was high enough, so the fish were not having any hard time. The nitrates in here are quite low actually, and when I checked yesterday night, it was about 20 parts per million. So I did a water change today. Now I did like about 75% water change, and the nitrates in here are like negligible, right? And the filters are back on and there's a decent amount of flow going into the tank now. And the fish were spawning yesterday, they were trapping, and there's no trappings happening right now because I kind of disturbed them. But the reality of it is that to the fish, as long as there's a high saturation of oxygen, it doesn't seem to matter how much flow is in the tank. What really seems to matter is how much oxygen is saturated into the water, simply because at this temperature, this tank's at about 82, 83 degrees Fahrenheit right now. It's about 82 and a half, which is the highest limit for the L134 Pecultius. And at that temperature, the oxygen saturation is quite low. So you have to increase the oxygen saturation by adding a lot more oxygen into the water and by water movement and surface agitation. As long as you're doing those things, the current itself doesn't seem to matter to the fish, because I've seen breeder tanks where they only have sponge filters. There's no real current produced by the sponge filter except a spiraling motion. So the water does move quite a bit with the sponge filter, but nothing like a pump or power head. In my experience, what I have been taught by many breeders as well as since childhood is what the amount of flow a tank should have for river fish is about 4 to 5 times the volume of the tank. What that means is if this tank is, let's say, 200 liters or 40 gallons, let's say 200 liters, you want to have the tank turn around at least 4 to 5 times within an hour. So you need a pump that is at least 800 liters per hour or 160 gallons per hour. Okay? So a 40 gallon tank requires a pump that turns that 40 gallons into around at least 4 times, if not 5 times. Okay? So that's what is recommended. At that current, the other fish in here, if there was tetras and any other fish, or angels for example, they cannot maintain a stable body and they will just get bounced around the tank and eventually get sucked into the filter or power head. So that's a real concern to have when you do have other fish, like the small tetras I have in my other tank. Put some B-roll footage so you guys can see them. But essentially, these animals cannot handle high current. So over a long period at least, if it's for like an hour or two, it's fine. But for weeks and months and stuff, they will get worn out eventually and they will get sucked into the filter or the power head and they will die. So you have to make a compromise at that point. If you are going to have small dither fish and stuff in there, you have to also make sure that the current is not too strong for those animals. So about 4 to 5 times is good for most dither fishes, but then some, like angelfish for example, might not be okay with that. So if you're going to have angelfish in your Pleco tank, you might want to reduce your current, increase the oxygen by adding some more air stones. These are like basic things I think each person has to figure out based on their own circumstance. But the reality of it is, for breeding them, I've seen in so many different cases where the breeders only have 2 sponge filters or HMF, something like that. They don't usually have. I'm one of the only breeders that probably actually does have power heads in my breeding tanks, like in terms of commercially trying to breed fish or whatever. But if it was like a real commercial operation, like when I move into the new facility, for example, I would not have power heads in any of my tanks because those things get clogged up. There's more maintenance, HMFs all around. You know what I mean? And there might be one tank that I might have to use a power head, like the Pseudohemida napitanos tank, because they are really a river-dwelling fish and they require the current to flow through their face. And I do have a 160-gallon pump in their tank. It's a 35-gallon tank, so it's about 4 to 5 times. Anything more, I don't think is required. I mean, you can literally put as much current as you want. You can put a wave maker in there that pumps 8,000 gallons an hour, and your fish will be bouncing up and down. And I don't know if the fish would be really happy in that situation or not. You know, so all these things might be a factor. I'm not saying that's the reality of the animal, because these animals do come from a river environment, but I mean, there are times when the river is not flowing as fast. There's times when, like for example, some of these animals have the ability to breathe air. Why is that? Because there's times when the river is not flowing at all, or they get stuck in tidal, like a small lakes that are made or left over when the river dries out, or small bodies of water, and they just have to go up to the surface like every other animal and breathe surface air. So they can do that. Like my para-ancestors auranticus can breathe surface air if it comes down to it. But I mean, I've never seen them do that because their tank is well planted. It has underground filters. It has a lot of oxygen flowing through. It doesn't have any flow, but it has a lot of oxygen. So, and I have 6 of them. I lost one. Actually, I forgot to mention that in the last few days I did lose a para-ancestors auranticus, a little like 4-inch fish. It smells so bad in here. Actually, I'm drying him up to donate to the science museum. But the reality is the rest of them are doing good, and it was a breeding accident. I believe it's a female or it's a subdominant male. I had 7 fish, and this was one of the smaller fish. There's like bigger ones that are holding down caves, so I guess something happened. They tried to breed with it. It's, you know, it's their season right now too, because a few other people that I know that have them are already getting fry and eggs right now. So like, I don't know whether it's because we're in the northern hemisphere, or whether it's because of the shorter day cycle, or whether something else is a factor, whether the increased amount of storms and winter storms and blizzards and low pressure systems might be affecting that. So all these things could be a factor, you know. So I don't want to bramble on too much about this, but I just want to say in conclusion, just keep your tank flowing so there's no debris accumulating. That's the bottom line. If you can actually achieve a level of cleanliness on your gravel bed or your sand bed where there's no debris accumulating and all the debris is getting pushed into your actual filter, then that's all that really matters. You know, as long as you can achieve that, I think that's good enough. And have really high oxygen concentration. And if in terms of number, it would be about 4 times the volume of the tank. So, you know, anything above 4 to 5 is good, but anything beyond 5, 6, I would say that's also maybe too much. So you just have to figure that out and measure your tank volume, or most people would know that. You know, they would know whether it's a 40-gallon or, you know, 200 liters or whatever. So just get a pump that is 4 times as much as the tank, or about 5 times in the higher end. So that's it. And also it's the Christmas season, so I believe in Christmas. I'm not Christian, but I grew up in a Christian neighborhood. I used to go to church. So I'm going to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy Hanukkah for all my Jewish subscribers. And whatever else you're celebrating, hope you guys have a safe Christmas season. I will be updating every single day until Christmas, hopefully. I'm going to do my best not to miss any days. So stay tuned and subscribe down below so you do not miss out on any of the cool videos that are coming out throughout the next few weeks. As always, thank you so much for your love and support. I'll see you on the next video. God bless you all.